And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Carnivore Evolution. Joe, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Mark. How are you doing?
You're killing it on social media at the moment, aren't you?
I do pretty well on social media. It's one of the ways I get my message out
Yeah.
about carnivore and myself. So absolutely,
You're looking incredible. You're looking amazing.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Not bad for 57.
Absolutely. No, I'm not too far behind you.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll be 50. I'll be 53 next week.
nice.
So yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You're getting older and you're actually looking forward to it now.
Well, when you're younger, you don't think of time, right? And you
No.
don't realize how fast time goes. Like
Oh,
when you're
stop.
younger, you think of 50, 60, you think that's ancient.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
comes up pretty quick. Like 3 years away from 60, I'm kind of in awe about that, but that's okay.
And
I guess,
it's crazy because we look better than we probably did in our 20s.
well, it's funny being a meatitarian, being a carnivore, we use these references all the time with age, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
57, feel like I'm 37, look like I'm 47.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the reality is, I actually, if you look back at pictures of me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I actually look better now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
100%.
like when I say I look better now, I'm not even talking compositionally. I'm talking about like just youthfully, the face, the
Mm,
vibrance,
mm,
right?
mm.
I tell a lot of people when we start getting into this lifestyle, I go, be prepared when you don't see people for 4, 6, 8 weeks. The
Mm,
first thing they're going to say, they're not even a reference to their weight. They're just going to say, wow, you look fantastic.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what they're talking about is your energy, your skin, your aura, you're vibrant, right?
Mm,
Like how many people have you seen kind of in this space and they just glow, right?
mm,
Like they look
mm,
fantastic. And, it's little things, but the reality is we really don't think about food and food stress and how it ages us.
mm,
And
mm.
literally one of the best benefits about this lifestyle is the youthfulness. You actually rejuvenate your body. Your body gets younger, right? It's not under
100%.
all that stress.
Mm,
And
mm.
people are always shocked. My full-time job, I'm an online carnivore coach. My side hustles, I'm a master trainer at a gym because my background in training fitness. And, everyone's young, right? And it's hilarious because I have employees that work for me that are like 22, 24, 25. And the other day, one of my employees said, it's crazy. And I go, what is? She goes, you're older than my dad. And I go, and you two are nothing alike. She goes, it looks like my dad needs to be in an old age home. And it goes, she goes,
Mm,
you look like you're 20 years younger than him. And I said, well, listen, it is lifestyle.
mm,
Absolutely. Right.
mm-hmm.
And, but
100%.
I'm okay with that. I'm good with that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, before we get into carnivore, and we'll talk everything
Yeah.
carnivore shortly. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you actually get into carnivore? Like, what's that? Were you always into fitness?
Yeah, so my background is my first job was when I was 14 years old was in a gym. I was 308 pounds, fat little Italian kid, and I actually told my mom and my dad I want to join a gym because I want to lose weight, and they were like, "No, there's nothing wrong with you," right? Because in our culture, they celebrate eating, right? You eating, I'm healthy because I was eating. Because it was funny. My brother was actually very lean, very muscular. We looked the opposites, right? And he would never eat. And they'd always complain about him because he wouldn't eat, right? Where I ate. But so, yeah, my first job was in the fitness industry. I went down to the local gym. I actually told them I didn't have any money because my parents wouldn't pay for a gym membership. And I said, but I'll work for free if you let me work out. And we're still friends to this day. His name's Big Jim Ward, the owner of the gym. We sat, talked for 45 minutes. My deal was I would come every day after school. I would basically wash the toilets, wash the showers, clean the change rooms, do the mirrors, do the floors. And if I did a good enough job, I was allowed to work out. I ended up working for him until I was 18 years old, right? Um, but I loved fitness so much. In a year, I lost 100 pounds, went from 308 to 208.
Wow.
And I basically got my first personal training certification by the time I was 16. I got my first PT cert, my first nutrition cert, And since then, I've been basically paid to write people fitness and nutrition programs. And even prior to that, I was selling memberships at the front desk. I was doing smoothies in the juice bar. And that's kind of how it progressed, where I started in the gyms. It's the only job I've ever had. So 4 decades in the fitness industry. Um,
Mm.
Fast forward, I end up going to university. I have my bachelor's in science and kinesiology, exercise science. I minor in nutrition. I have 4 nutrition certs, 4 personal training certs. I have another 36 related certifications in exercise, nutrition, supplementation, blood work. And I just did that for my own basically knowledge for my basically work, right? Outside of being in the fitness industry and upper management, I had my own coaching and nutrition practice, which was macros for 35 years. How I got into carnivore the last 8 years, I had 2 clients, nutrition clients, basically say, "Hey, we heard this carnivore thing. We want to do it." And my exact words were to them, "No, we can't do that nonsense. It's balance. You need your carbs, proteins, and fats." And kind of let it go. And then I forget who, someone had a podcast. I think it was Dr. Baker, kind of went viral. I had 39 people ask me the next month about doing carnivore. And at this point, that's how I make my living. I'm letting them
Mm.
waddle money walk out the door.
Mm.
So I was honest with people. I said, listen, I've never prescribed a nutrition plan I don't know 100% about, or I've never done. And I go, I knew of carnivore back in the day. So carnivore really got its kind of resurgence in the last 10 years as carnivore. I guess it was too aggressive prior to that. We referred to it as the no carb diet, right?
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
been around forever. I knew it. I utilized aspects of a no carb diet for my competition clients to get them super lean. Then
Mm.
we'd introduce carbs to fill them up for stage, right? But I
Mm.
never did it as kind of a lifestyle. So I was honest with people. I said, listen, let me do a little research. Let me try it on my own, and then we'll go from there. And that's how I got into carnivore. I did around 3 weeks worth of research, which 8 years ago was horrendous. It was
Mm.
brutal. There was
Mm.
hardly very little. Um, I ended up getting a book, Dr. Baker's book, Dr. Paul's book, read those books, doing a bunch of research, figured out how I was going to do it. I was 20 days in, and I remember being 20 days in telling my wife, I'm never going to eat a carb again in my life,
Mm.
right? Because it's the first time in my adult life, 20 days in, I wasn't hungry. I literally had no food noise. My
Mm.
entire adult life prior to that, didn't matter whether I was in a bulk, being living a classic bodybuilding,
Mm.
macro
Mm.
lifestyle. I would do
Mm.
a 6,500 calorie bulk in the winter. For me, a cut was 3,500 calories. But whether I did a cut or a bulk, I was always hungry. My
Yeah.
appetite was always crazy. I always had cravings. I'd always end up breaking whatever my plan was and binge, right? And it's the first time in my adult life where this is nuts, man. I'm not thinking of food. I'm not hungry. I still remember I was a upper management VIP manager for French Fitness, and we used to have these crazy days where we would work 8 in the morning till 10 at night, and on Wednesdays. And I just realized I ate my first meal at 7. It's 9 o'clock at night. I haven't eaten
Mm.
yet. I'm not
Mm.
hungry. I
Mm.
feel great. I'm not angry. I'm not moody. Right? I'm like, this is just stupid,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And yeah, I remember my staff always used to say we like Carnivore Joe because he's not angry. Because
Mm.
if I wasn't eating every 2-3 hours, I was miserable. I was angry. I
Mm.
was starting to get moody, right? And it's because, and I admit it, and I've been very transparent with my issues and my journey with nutrition. Is I was addicted to carbs. I was addicted to sugar. I had
Mm.
food dependencies, food disorders, eating disorders, and I used to reference when I really got back into carnivore 8 years ago how it kind of saved my life because it did, right?
Mm.
Bottom line is, I was one of those typical individuals, even being educated and known, and sometimes you felt like a fraud. I struggled with my nutrition. I'm sitting
Mm.
there teaching people how to eat, telling them what to eat, but
Yeah.
meanwhile, I would be binging and I would be excessively exercising. I'd be throwing up just to
Yeah.
all maintain weight, you
Yeah.
know. And you go through so many epiphanies when you're in this lifestyle and you start going through things, like just the aspect of, struggling with nutrition, and not really understanding why, because everything we're taught is basically teaching us the opposite.
Yeah.
And food's not the problem, sugar's not the problem, ingredients aren't the problem, you're the problem. And I thought
Mm.
I was the problem,
Mm.
right? So, yeah, it's been a whirlwind, to tell you the truth. It's been
Mm.
crazy.
Mm.
I couldn't have imagined, if you would have told me 8 years ago I'd never eat a carb again in your life, I would have told you you're crazy. I'm
Mm.
Italian,
Mm.
pasta, pizza, cannolis, gelato, right?
Mm.
And it's amazing to me how I can be in a social event with my family, be in an abundance of food, and I can care less,
Yeah.
right? Like, it doesn't even matter. Where
Mm.
before I would skip those things because I would struggle, right?
Mm.
For me, it was volume, right? I would tell myself, and it was a lie, I just have a little, but a little turned into a lot, then a day turned into a week turned into a month, right? Outside of carnivore, I never maintained my weight more than 3 months, right? Uh, in carnivore, 4.5 months, I ended up dropping 64 pounds of fat, gaining 12 pounds of muscle. And that was the bonus. Every health issue I had was reversed.
Mm.
But it's the first time in my adult life, I've literally for 7.5 years stayed between 4 pounds. I fluctuate between around 184 to 188. The
Mm.
only time I've gone up is I've done a few fun bulks. You know how people do the carnivore thing. I'm going to try fruit for a week. Well, I never did that nonsense.
Mm.
No need. But I said, well, let me see if I increase my protein by, 25 to 40 grams a day. Let me see if I, do a little more intense workouts, a little less volume, a little heavier weight. Yeah, I literally, the 1 month I put on 10 pounds in 3 weeks. And, having access to body composition, it was all lean muscle mass, a bit of water.
Mm.
Like, it was
Mm.
nuts,
Mm.
right? But I actually liked feeling better in the 180s. So I just reduced my protein down and literally went back. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how I got started. Had a few people ask, and the rest is history. And yeah, I was so impressed with my results. And it was just a natural thing. I started posting about doing it, right? Before posting was a big thing about this. And my clients saw it, and then I had a couple clients, hey, I want to do it. I'm like, sure, let's try it, right? Couple more. And then just in that period of time, around 2, 3 months, just seeing the results my clients got from the health aspect, never mind the compositional aspect, I was just loving it. I was just
Mm.
totally just kind of something really resonated with me with it. And I decided, once again, talking to my wife, I'm gonna switch my entire coaching and nutrition practice to
Mm.
carnivore. And she's like, you sure? I'm like, absolutely. I go, listen, I've never seen people get these types of health results in such a short period of time. It is
Mm.
nuts. And then
Mm.
the body composition. And I go, everyone feels amazing. And she goes, well, but it's unhealthy to eat meats and fats. It's a lot of salt. And I go, yeah, I know, but like, I don't get it, right? And then obviously there's progression, right? The deep dives, looking up studies, looking up individuals, reading books, just diving more into it. You know, we get into these lanes, right? I call it tunnel vision, right? You get into this is what you believe, you don't believe anything else. And that's where you're at, right?
Mm.
You always have your opinions. No, this diet's best, that's best. Used to tell people macros is the best, moderation, balance, carbs,
Mm.
proteins, fats.
Mm.
Um, but we know that all now is literally a lie. We know balance
Mm.
doesn't work. We know moderation doesn't work. Balance and moderation works if you want to stay overweight and unhealthy, right?
Mm.
That's the bottom line.
Mm.
And I think it's designed that way to keep people that way, right? It's like the gym industry. For years, I've always told people the dirty little secret in the fitness industry is that exercise is what basically changes your body. And
Mm.
it doesn't
Mm.
compositionally. It can make you strong. It
Mm.
can give you bigger muscles. But when it comes to losing fat, it does nothing. And that's something I learned in university when I was
Mm.
first taught, your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. And
Mm.
another thing that it kind of clicked in me when I was learning these things is, you know, when I was 14 and I lost that 100 pounds is because I worked with some great people and they were bodybuilders. And I wasn't even in the gym for 2 days when two of them told me, listen, you can work out like mad. It's 80% nutrition.
Mm.
And the reality is we've lost that over the
Yeah.
last, 20, 30, 40 years, that it's your nutrition that you have to prioritize, not your exercise, if you basically want to change your body's composition. everyone thinks it's exercise, but it's been proven over and over. I know you're a gym goer. I've seen your videos. They're awesome. You know, we see it every day. People, the same people every day, every week, every month, every year in the gym look the same. Some of them even
Mm-hmm.
bigger. The
Mm-hmm.
ones that are losing the weight, that are changing, if you talk to them, what did they do? They prioritize their nutrition. They prioritize their nutrition, and basically that's why their body changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and I totally get that. And because I worked for a few fitness facilities, and I won't mention their names, that would never sell nutrition. And I'm like, it's more important than the actual training. Why aren't we selling nutrition? And the
Exactly.
reality
Yeah.
is they didn't want to sell nutrition because they wanted that client as long as they could. And they know if you just gave recommendations and you didn't actually work on their nutrition, they would get a little stronger, they would feel a little better,
Mm.
but they would be through it, do 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, because once they get to their goal, guess what? I don't need you anymore, right?
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and that's their thought process. And that's why there's so many facilities that basically don't hire nutritionists or don't do nutritions, right? They usually
Mm.
let the trainers basically do it, but most trainers don't have a basic understanding.
No.
It's
And
yeah,
honestly, this is what frustrates me in the industry, Joe. You must have seen this yourself. But like you see an awful lot of these trainers and they're saying like, listen, you need to come to the gym. It doesn't matter. You need to come to the gym at least 4 times a week. You need to be in here for an hour. You need to do your classes. And you can clearly see that these people are being punished. They're being punished to lose weight. And then when
yeah,
you look at, okay, what else are you doing for these people? There's no mention of nutrition because they're coming in with all these bottles of juices and energized drinks, and it's like, well, you're obviously not getting the right information here. I see people in my local gym that are like 200 pounds, 250. They're big people. And these people have these, or these trainers have these people running on treadmills. And I'm like, this is crazy. Stop. I'm looking at these
yeah,
people and I'm like, why? Like, why don't you not just back it off a little bit and just say, well, listen, you don't need to do all this. We can get regular movement in every single day. Focus on your nutrition. When your energy starts getting better, you can come back to the gym and we can kill it. Well, why can't we not start there? Because this is the number one question I get from people when I take them on. They're like, Mark, I hate the gym. I hate the gym. I hate going to the gym. And you can clearly see in their face, they're stressed. They're in a really, really bad way. And I say to them at the very, very beginning, guess what? You don't need to go to the gym. And they're like, what? Are you serious? And I'm saying, yeah, you don't need to go to the gym. We can keep the gym out for the next 2 months if you want to. And they were like, absolutely. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? And I'm saying, just move. Every day, just
yeah,
move. And let your food do the talking. I have 2 clients at the moment that work on a bus. They do 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week, and they have lost more weight than the average person in the gym. How is that possible? That you have someone who's sitting down for like 60 hours a week and he's able to lose weight very, very easily. And I'm always saying this to people. How are people in wheelchairs sitting on buses, people that are just sitting around sedentary, they're able to get results? It's because they're focusing on their nutrition.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's where that's where the problem is.
It's an industry thing, and now it's like everything, it's dogmatic, right? Oh, I want to lose weight, I got to go work out, right? Um, but I have the same experience. 70% of my clients do not work out. They don't even get their steps in, even though I beg them just to get some conditioning, cardiovascular health.
Mm,
And I have 30% that go to the gym, and my 70% lose more weight on average than my ones going to the gym, right? And
mhm,
there's reasons for that. But the preference is, well, you got to expend energy because they're chasing that deficit, chasing
mm,
calories,
mm.
and they really don't understand calories mean nothing,
No.
right? Calories, basically, you can't actually burn a calorie. People don't understand that. You
Mhm,
actually don't gain weight by consuming calories. Your body gains weight by a surplus of energy, and it's a
mhm.
hormonal response. It's
Yes.
not a caloric
Yeah.
response. When you're doing carbs, proteins, and fats, and you reduce calories, well, in the beginning, do you lose some weight? Yes. And that's because your deficits of energy are different. But as eventually they balance out. And guess what happens? They don't lose fat anymore, but they still have fat to lose,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's because, it has very little to do with that, right? Um, I have some videos that went viral and people lost their mind because the whole premise was the videos is you don't have to exercise to lose weight. And people are like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
And it's like, well, because nutrition is 80%, exercise is 20%. And
Yeah.
then they give me a hard time because obviously I exercise. And I say, but I don't exercise to lose weight. I don't exercise to maintain my weight because I learned 20, 30 years ago that doesn't work. I exercise
Mm.
to stay strong. I exercise to stay healthy. I go,
Mm.
mentioned our age, we're in our 50s, close to our 60s. How many times do you hear people in their 50s, 60s, 70s basically falling, breaking a leg, and also getting a staph infection, then getting, then passing
Yeah.
away? And that's
Yeah.
why I tell people I physically work out. It's not to lose weight, not to maintain my weight. It's so my body's strong, I'm healthy, my muscles are strong.
But you know what? Sorry for interrupting you, Joe. But you know what the
Yeah,
biggest thing you know what the biggest thing I see, because I hear this all the time in the change rooms. Like people are in similar my age, and you can see the damage they've done to their bodies. They're going on about, oh, I wish I was a little bit younger. If I was a little bit younger, I'd be able to hit the train a little bit easier. And I'm like, no, no. The reason why you're really, really struggling is you're doing the wrong thing. I see these people, they're going into the gym and they're doing this high intensity workouts, like circuits, running around, trying to burn as many calories as possible, all this crap. And then they come into the change rooms and they're literally destroyed. They run their bodies into the ground. It has an
yeah,
effect on their metabolism. It has an effect on their hunger. You can clearly see it in their face. They're just completely stressed out. And I mean, they're getting angry about certain things in life. And it's like you just want to go over to them and say, you know what, you don't actually need any of this.
yeah.
You can clearly see where the problem is. And I get it. Like that's what gyms have to make money. I worked in a gym years ago. I
Oh
used to
yeah.
teach this way. Like this is the one thing I couldn't get my head around was when I used to have people on low calories like years ago, and then I look at what I used to give people like around 14, 1500 calories, and now I'm getting the similar results at the moment, and these people are probably at double the amount, and they're still getting unbelievable results. I couldn't get my head around that. I was like, how is this possible? How is it? Surely it's down to calories here. Surely if you're eating too much, you're going to gain weight. But I hadn't got a clue, and I'm always saying that in my videos that these people just haven't got a clue when it comes to getting in shape because we all know we can get in shape on a low calorie diet. You did it,
Well,
I did, you did it, and I did it. The thing
oh
is
yeah,
this,
and
and
yeah,
and just one more point, and this is where when you said to me about at the start where we gain weight, we lose weight, we gain weight, we lose weight. I had that for years. I could gain the weight easily. I could lose the weight. I could gain the weight. I could lose the weight. I never had that food freedom ever. I always grew up with an eating disorder. I was like, okay, there's something wrong with me. Why do I have to eat every couple of hours? Is this normal? Because I was eating around 10 times a day at one stage. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have a protein and a banana, a protein shake and a banana, because I thought this is what I had to do. I thought
yeah.
because I was building more muscle, my metabolism was speeding up. I need to eat more food, therefore I'll lose more weight. No, that's not how it worked. It was
Well,
literally, I was gaining weight very, very quickly.
listen, we know that a lot of what we believe in society started in the 70s, right? And you know, what were we told? Salt's bad for you. Well, we know that's a lie. What were we told? Well, basically, stay out of the sun. We know that's a lie. Well, meats and fats are bad for you. We know that's a lie. You got to eat more frequently. That's a lie, right? And in the beginning when I started this, I used to be much more gentle. I'd say, oh, we were misled. Now I'm just honest with people and say, listen, we were lied to
Mm,
for the simple fact to line basically food companies, pharmaceutical companies, and supplement companies in the medical industry's pockets. And that's all it is, right? Because we are literally doing everything they're saying, you know, eat more often, eat more grains and wheats, reduce your salt, reduce your fats, reduce your meats. And what's happening? We are the fattest we've ever been. We are the sickest we've ever been. We are on the most medications we've ever been. And we're doing everything you're telling us. And
mm,
with the science we have today, with the smart people and the technology, it literally should be the opposite, but it's not. And
mm,
it's because it's designed that way. Everything we're doing is basically keeping you unhealthy and keeping you fat. And if you say anything to the contrary, you're basically, you're a pariah. Like
Mm-hmm.
the the things I've been called and the things that have been wished upon me in the last 8 years from forget about, people who don't like meat eaters, the vegans and vegetarians, they're humans too, they're people too, they're just misled, is, the macro people is just been insane because
Mm-hmm.
you need your balance, you need your carbs. And I'm like, you know what? I go, and I believe that and I get it. But the reality is, if you're a logical person, in science, we have what we call theoretical, which is you can have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, it can be disputed. Then we have scientific absolutes, right? We know when it comes to nutrition, what's the first thing when you take a nutrition course? Nutrition 101, you learn about three macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats. And these are scientific absolutes. Carbohydrates are non essential, proteins and fats are essential. So, and people just can't get around that. Well, it's non-essential, but you still need them because I always get the buts, right? And every but they give me, I basically squash it, right? And what's really funny? Educated people, nutritionists, dietitians, when I call them conversations, they call them arguments, and I ask them, what's the definition? Half of them don't even know what the definition is,
No.
right? Then if they do know the definition, which basically if people out there don't know, the definition of a non-essential macronutrient, the reason why it's defined that way is there's not a nutrient found in it that the
Mm-hmm.
body actually requires that the body won't already produce on its own. That's literally why the body doesn't need 1 gram, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love always asking a nutritionist or a fitness trainer or the gym bro, how many carbs does your body need? And I get everything 50, 100, 500. I'm like, it's zero. They're like, what? I go, the requirement for carbohydrates is zero. It's a non-essential macronutrient. Oh, but you're missing all this nutrients. I go, you're missing nothing because there's nothing in there the body actually requires. Well, how about the phytonutrients? Well,
Yeah, yeah,
guess what? I eat a steak. I get that from cows. They're like, what are you talking about? You're
yeah.
eating meat. I go, yeah, but what is that meat made up of?
Exactly, exactly,
Phytonutrients,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
They kind of miss that fact.
yeah, yeah,
But the
yeah.
reality is, I just don't, that's one of my big things is just why people just can't understand that, well, you need it for your brain function. I go, no, you're talking about glucose or
Mm-hmm.
glycogen, which in the absence of carbohydrates, guess what? Your body produces it.
Crazy,
Well, you
exactly.
need
Yeah,
it for energy. I go, no, you're choosing to use it for energy. And that's what I
yeah.
tell people. I say,
I know.
listen,
Yeah,
if you would come to me and say, hey, Joe, you need carbs for energy, it's false. I
yeah,
go,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you tell me I'm going to utilize carbs for energy, okay, that's your choice, and that's okay. It's just much less efficient, effective, and efficient. So why would you do it? Right.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and because I had someone the other day ask me about carbs. Why do you hate carbs? I'm like, well, I don't hate carbs. I go, I just don't see a necessity to them. They
Mm-hmm.
literally do nothing except bring you backwards. I go, the more carbs you eat, the more you have to balance it out. The less you balance it out, the worse it affects you hormonally. The longer you do it, the more illnesses, ailments, and sicknesses are basically going to come. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, and because I'm in the gym a lot and all the gym bros, you need your carbs, you need your carbs. And I go, really? And this is the person with an extra large coffee, a pre-workout, and they've eaten carbs all day, but if they don't have those stimulants to get through their workout, they won't have a great workout.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm up at 3:45 a.m. I go to bed at 11. I'm in maintenance. I eat twice a day. I don't have any stimulants whatsoever. And my energy has never been better. It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to be one of those guys, got to eat my pre-workout meal, got to carb up, got to have my energy drink, right? Got to have my pre-workout. When I tell people my workouts have never been better, my strength's
Mm-hmm.
never been better, my stamina's never been better, my energy's never been better, they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, well, listen, I just had a great workout. I go, you came in the other day. It was the end of the world because you forgot your pre-workout, asking
Mm-hmm.
everyone and their brother, do you have pre-workout? Do you have pre-workout? Can I have pre-workout? I go, there's an issue if you can't have a good workout without a pre-workout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and and I educate people and I say, listen, let's look at your lifeline. I go, I bet you're living on stimulants like coffee, energy drinks, just to get through your days. But meanwhile, you're eating all these great carbs. Where's your energy from all these
Mm-hmm.
great carbs,
Mm-hmm.
right? The reality is it's up and down, right? Like, you know, it's one of the things like, I know you coach people, I know coach people. What happens within month to 2 months? What are the first three things people usually recognize right away. My energy's better, my sleep's better, my gut's better, right? And we know, if you believe in blood work, which I don't, there's just a lot of nuances with that, is that, if you believe in blood work and markers, what is the first thing of good health markers? Blood, energy's good, sleep's good, gut's good. Is it miraculous or a miracle that every single person who carnivores properly, that literally happens within months? No, it's not. It's literally because, they're actually utilizing better sources of energy. They're actually getting, nutrients their body needs. It's actually fueling them. It is healing them. And the bigger thing people really don't realize, which I tell them, is that people really don't understand food stress, how the body is stressed by food, right? And that's because people want to blame everything else, genetics, environment, stress, and those things can deal with it, but nothing affects your body more than what you consume, what you eat, what you drink. And literally people are consuming stimulant after stimulant, even the aspect of a processed food that has 16, 19, 22 ingredients in it. I love these coaches. Ingredients don't matter. And it's because their entire existence is based on macros. It's based on calories. As long as you're in deficit, losing weight, you're fine, right? It's like, well, that's when I usually know people really don't know too much about nutrition, for the simple fact that your body was only meant to digest some carbohydrates, not all of them, proteins and fats. So if it's not derived from a carbohydrate, a protein, and fat, literally your body cannot digest it, cannot utilize it. Well, what happens when you consume it? Where does it go? Right? People are like, oh, your body just expends it. I go, no, it doesn't. It actually gets stored in your body, and it affects you in a negative way. And that's why you can see correlation for people who really, the majority of their intake basically is processed foods. Usually those are the individuals that are always having more health issues, struggle more with their weight, their mental clarity, anxiety, stress. Like, you would hope it's not a common thing. It is unbelievable how many people deal with these things every day. One of the awesome things, kind of leaving, the fitness industry and being full-time online, I have clients all over the world. And I always reference and I tell people, listen, there are differences in countries, right? Like in North America, whether it's like Central America and Mexico, all over the States, Canada, I'll do 10 consults, 8 out of 10 are on multiple medications. In Europe, if I do 10 consults, it's like 4, right? To me, that's a dramatic difference, right? And and then you find out, it's funny, every, kind of country has their version of an FDA, which controls basically, basically the food and drug, industry. And it's amazing the differences between them. Like in North America, we allow 10,000 ingredients. In Europe, it averages around 1,000. You go to Australia, it's 400, right? And, a lot of the ingredients that we're consuming, certain countries deem unhealthy and dangerous, but, based on a certain value, well, it's not. Well, I'm pretty sure at this point, like the whole, ingredients, vegetable oils, sugars, we can tell if there's an issue and there's a problem. And it's just amazing how in our lifestyle, well, what do? Well, we eliminate high sugar foods, all sugar foods. What do? We eliminate high toxic foods, processed foods. We eliminate basically, the vegetables and the fruits that'll have the most amount of anti-nutrients, the lectins, the phytates, the oxalates. We're not even talking about the glycinates. We eliminate those things, and it's just amazing how 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, people get better, right? I tell people all the time, what makes me a little different is my experience being in the macro space for 35 years is, can people get in a deficit, lose a little weight? Absolutely. Do they feel a little better? Absolutely. Did they ever reverse an ailment, illness, or sickness? Hardly ever, never. Did they ever get off a medication? Never. In our lifestyle, these are common, regular occurrences that happen daily, right? I do this little thing at the end of every month. I do this post where how many clients I had, how much weight they lost, how much muscle they gained, how many inches they lost. how many illnesses reverses and how many medications they got off, right? I've never had a month since I started doing that post around 9 months ago that there's been zero medications or zero illness reversed. Like last month, it was off 22 medications, reversed 8 illnesses, right? And we're not talking years, 5 years, 10 years, 20
No,
years.
yeah.
We're literally talking 3
Months,
months,
weeks,
6
yeah.
months, 9 months, right? Weeks for some people. Some people over a year, which this is what makes me laugh, Mark, and probably make you laugh because I've watched your posts. I see how you respond to people is that, when people aren't basically becoming a superhuman within 4 weeks, they're like, why isn't it working? Right. And I always laugh like, well, because everyone's different. I go, but listen, even if you think of a year, if you look at your lifeline and for 15, 20, 25 years, you've been basically consuming alcohol, consuming massive amounts of food, not sleeping, overstressed. And if you don't get healthy within 2, 3 months, why isn't it working?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
people need to have a little bit of grace, have some patience. Everybody's different. Not everyone loses weight, right?
And see
I actually,
that's the reason why when I take people on, the first thing I say to them is, I hope you're not here to just lose weight. That's what I always say to myself. If you're coming to see me just to lose weight and go on a quick fix, I said you're with the wrong person, pretty much.
yeah,
But to be honest, like 95% of people that come to me, they understand why they're coming to me in the first place because they watch the
yeah,
videos. But I think this is where we need to go back to reality, because this is what frustrates me about the industry. Because when you ask somebody who's really, really struggling, they'll say, I'll ask them the question, what do you define healthy? Why do you feel that these people are struggling? And they'll look at them and say, well, he's overweight or she's overweight. And it's like, okay, they're overweight, but what's causing them to be overweight in the first place? And all they're thinking about is just they're overeating. And I'm like, yeah, but there's something in the background. There must be something in the background that's making them overeat. So I'm making them think. I'm asking them the question. I'm keep on asking them the question. I'm making them think on a regular basis. And every time they come up with an answer, I'm giving them another question, another question, another question. And they're like, by the time we get to the end, they're like, you actually make a lot more sense. I might actually be going wrong here. And I love having that conversation with people. I like asking them the hard questions. Just give them another question. Just give them another question. Why do you feel that? Why do you feel that if you think this person is healthy, why are they on a list of medication? If you're telling me that carbohydrates are the main source of energy, then why are you telling this person to come in with a bottle of juice first thing in the morning? Because I see this all the time. I see all the gym bros. The gym bros are always saying to me, carbs are your main source of energy, but they're coming in the next morning with dextrose in their drinks. You know what I mean? They're coming in with their Lucasades. They're coming out with their pre-workouts. I'm like you. I'm up at 3 a.m. every morning. I'm coming into the gym fasted. I don't have anything apart from water, maybe a little bit of salt. That's it. And I get unbelievable workouts. Unbelievable workouts. I'm able to lift. I'm lifting more now than I did 20 years ago. And I don't have any more inflammation. I don't have any more joint pain. I can't remember the last time I felt dumps. I can't remember, honestly. I can go into the gym every single day if I want to, train really, really hard, and I know the next day I can do it again. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
yeah,
When I did an intense leg session, it took me nearly a week to recover
yeah.
because I was in bits. 48 hours, 72 hours. I was like, oh my God, I can't even walk. I can do a leg session
Well,
now, and
and
I'm fine.
that's
I'm fine.
that's a common thing for people who work out regularly. Once they start carnivoring and they've been doing it for 3 months, 6 months, they notice I'm never sore.
No.
And then they're like, why am I not sore? And I'm like, well, there's two main reasons. First one is inflammation. You get rid of it all. When you have no inflammation, your body functions much different. A lot of that soreness goes. Then the other aspect, this is one of the biggest things that people really don't understand about carnivore and why people progress and do so well on carnivore is when the average person is only getting a third of their intake from proteins and fats, that is 3/3 less than what your body requires, that you're missing all that vital nutrients, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and in those vital nutrients, like meats, your 9 amino acids, right? In those amino acids, you have short chain acids, you have branch chain amino acids. One of those is L-glutamine. Well, you know, how many of us, in this industry used to work out for recovery, take L-glutamine, right? And you're taking
Mm-hmm.
your 20 grams a day, you know, Well, the aspect of, now you're getting all those essential amino acids, which helps your body recover, which basically maintains it. It's super hard to get sore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it literally never happens. The only time it kind of happens, talking to other carnivores that have been doing it for a while and working out, sometimes when they rewrite their program for like an hour or two after doing something totally different, they don't even call it sore. I'm a little tight. I'm a little stiff. This is different, but it literally goes away. And yeah,
Yeah.
you know, funny story about the soreness in the legs. I used to live in this complex where it used to be an old age home before they converted it to just whoever wanted to live there. And they had all the handles to get in and out of the shower and off the toilet for when people are older because they don't function that well.
Yeah.
And I used to remember, I used to have leg workouts that if I didn't have these bars, I would literally be stuck on that toilet because I couldn't get up, right? So yeah, I totally remember that. Like I remember that I would be somewhere and I'd have to go up and down stairs and I would be like, where's the elevator? Or I'd walk around because I couldn't go up and down the stairs because my
Yeah.
legs
Yeah.
were so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it never happens. I have some old injuries from sports, football, my back, my shoulders. I have rheumatoid arthritis. It is nuts how my body doesn't ache, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we take for granted, we think we're living healthy. How many times have you heard in this lifestyle, I never knew what healthy was until I did this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I never really, how many times do we hear the reference, I feel like $1,000,000, right? Like people don't say that when they're in a lifestyle where they're basically consuming things that are stressing their body out and giving them those negative reactions, right? In our lifestyle, it's amazing how you talk to people and they just say, I feel so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel great, right? And there's a lot of aspects of why that happens. But the reality is we never really understand that until we get there, right? It's amazing, and you'll have this experience because you coach clients where people watch the videos, see the people, but until you experience, you don't understand it. And then you get a client and they're like 4 weeks in and they'll basically say, I get it now, right? Like I understand, like I feel fantastic. My body doesn't hurt, and it's funny how it happens. Like people just kind of forget and then they just realize, my shoulder doesn't hurt. My wrists don't hurt. I haven't taken, an ibuprofen in basically 2 weeks where
Mm-hmm.
people live on that stuff. That's one thing I realized. I didn't realize how much like Aleve I would take, Tylenol I was taking, because my body always hurt.
Yeah.
I was, supposed to be this guy that was eating healthy fruits, vegetables, lean meats, taking supplements. My
Mm-hmm.
body always hurt,
Yeah.
right? Like I was always in pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just age. I thought it was just my injuries from sports and being younger. And, and these are things I would tell my clients because these were things that are acceptable and kind of known and dogmatic. And,
Mm-hmm.
you get into this lifestyle, 3 months later, you're like, holy crap, nothing hurts. What is going on here? Right? I used to regularly see a chiropractor, get some physio, get some massage therapy. My chiropractor is actually a really good friend of mine. I think I haven't seen him in 6 years. He's like, we run into each other once in a while. He's like, you ever going to come back for a treatment? I go, Doc, I feel great. I go, before I felt I needed an adjustment, or now, oh, dude, I feel like $1,000,000. I go, well, I'll come see you if I feel there's a need, but I'm just, cruising on, doing awesome and, living life.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I recognize, in this lifestyle, constantly happy, right? Like energy's good, mood's great, constantly happy, always smiling, where, I recognized when I was in a macro based lifestyle, that wasn't always the case. Like some anxiety, some depression, always a little, it was very easy to get into a bad mood or be miserable. And we make jokes. I go, what's the difference between a group of carnivores and a group of macro based? And I go, the carnivores are all smiling, they're all happy, they're
Mm-hmm.
all having a great day. And the
Mm-hmm.
macro based are all miserable because they're hungry and they're craving, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it's like we make jokes of it, but that's kind of the reality, right? We get a lot of hate from the macro side because, well, you know, it can't be good for them. Who cares if they're happy, if they're doing well? Eating bacon and eggs can't be good for them because they're
Mm-hmm.
miserable making their friggin'
Mm-hmm.
oatmeal and cocoa powder and chia seeds and let's throw in, a scoop of protein to make it healthy. like, and they're like, I want steak and eggs. I'm like, you should go eat some bacon and eggs, steak and eggs.
Yeah,
You'll be a lot more happy
yeah.
and you'll do well.
And see, isn't it very, very sad what's going on in the industry at the moment? We won't mention any names, but you can clearly see what the problem is here. They're just focusing on just getting in shape. They're just absolutely convinced that if I want to look healthy, if I want to look after my blood work, I just need to look a certain way. And it's just crazy because you were in that situation, I was in that situation, but we weren't happy. Our health was turned to crap. And I know for me personally, I did that for years. I could get in shape. I used to coach this way. I used to take my top off and take a picture of myself and sell myself. That's how I sold myself to people. I'd say,
Yeah.
look at me, look at my abs, look at my chest, look at my arms. This is how you get in shape. I was a fraud back then. Absolute frauds, because that's how I sold myself. And that's what's going on in the world at the moment. Unfortunately, it's all down to grades. We're just focusing on, okay, as long as this person loses the weight and she looks incredible or he looks incredible, that's all that matters. But you have no idea what's going on in the background. I have a few friends in the industry at the moment that are very, very good friends of mine. They are like, say, 80% and 90% carnivore, but in the background, they're enhanced. They're taking drugs. I know they're taking drugs in the background. I know this because they tell me this, so they can get away with eating carbohydrates. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If it works for you, you go and do it. The problem I have is this: you have a large platform. You should not be telling the world that this works, carbohydrates in moderation, because it's wrong. And that's
Yeah.
what really annoys, because I've had these people on my podcast and I've said this to their faces, that you can't sell yourself that way because it's wrong. It's not the right way to do it. Because like you mentioned earlier, no matter what these people say, the only benefit you're going to get from eating carbohydrates is probably body composition. You're going to look a certain way. The muscle's going to look bigger, but it's just an illusion. That's the only benefit you're going to see from eating carbohydrates. You're not going to see any other benefit from eating carbohydrates at all. None. Not from a health perspective. And the thing is this: everybody has their time. So what I mean by that is, this is going to catch up on you eventually. It mightn't catch up on you now, but I guarantee in the next 5, 10, 15 years, this will catch up on you eventually. Because there's going to be too much inflammation in your body. It's going to take over. It's going to lead to a problem. And then you're going to realize, okay, holy shit, I should have never put these into my body in the first place.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from social media, obviously, and society. Like, the perception of health is ripped, and we know that's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get macro-based people digging me all the time. Oh, you're not that big, you're not that ripped, and I go, yeah, but I never said I was, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm 5'9", 188. When I competed at 220, I got up to 240 at 3% body fat. But it was a lot of manipulation, a lot of drugs, and was it healthy? No. Okay. To basically, for me, to sit at 188 pounds at 12% with no effort, I tell people it's friggin' amazing. And I love it. And I love better how I feel. I look a certain way because I train a certain way. I used to be an old school bodybuilder. I like that look. I still train like a gym bro, right? I still do a bodybuilder split. Because I get people, am I going to look like you? And I'm like, no, I've been working out since I was 14. You got a lot of work to put in.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is, people come to our lifestyle sometimes to basically, they want to be leaner and they want to lose weight. And I tell them, listen, that eventually is going to happen. I go, your genetics is going to play a role. Everyone's different, right? Like, is everyone going to look like Sean Baker? Absolutely not, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks that way based on his genetics. I can look at my brother, right? When we were growing up, we didn't even look related. We looked like we're adopted. I looked like an Inuit, little short, chubby, Eskimo. My brother looked like basically a native Indian, long, lean. When I did carnivore, the lightest I got was around 11%, and I averaged around 12, 13. My brother, basically, the leanest he got was 9%, and he averages 10, 11, right? You'll have some people, they'll always be a little leaner, some people a little higher, right? And it's more about, I always tell people, listen, I know people come here for the weight loss. The reality is, some of you are going to lose some weight, some of you aren't. Eventually, when your body heals, if you have excess body fat, it's going to go. It's not natural. The body doesn't want it, right? But how much of it's going to go, it's different for everyone. right?
Mhm.
You know, people have this perception, I want to get to this, you know, I want to get to that, or this is the way I should look. And they really don't understand, just like you said, like, you know, a lot of these people are using other facets to manipulate to get to that certain look, but it's not healthy, right?
Mhm.
And when people truly get healthy, they actually that kind of thought of a certain look kind of goes away, right? Because they understand, you know, I'm feeling better, I'm doing better. Even the mental clarity, it changes the way they think. And then they end up obviously looking good, right?
Mhm.
Like I did a video the other day and people really didn't understand what I meant. A lot of people were lost their mind. And because you know, the video was, you know, if you basically, if your coach tells you to throw away the scale, maybe you should throw your coach away. But they didn't watch the whole video and they just got up. And it was the fact that there's a lot of people that get into this space coaching because they're looking at the dollars now because it's
Mhm.
popular, but they don't
Mhm.
understand it's more about not what they're eating, because these are coaches using macros and calories and carnivore, which doesn't work, because it's more about the hormonal response. And
Mhm.
it's because there's a bunch of coaches are going on this thing because they don't know how to basically help their clients heal hormonally, so they're not kind of dropping the fat. Because the reason why they're not dropping the fat, it's more based on their hormonal response when it comes to like insulin and cortisol and estrogen.
Mhm.
And that's part of the healing process, right? Um, and that's what the video was about. Then people were losing their mind. And it wasn't, the focus wasn't on the scale. The focus was more on that with carnivore, there's so many nuances. It's not easy. Macros was easy, right? Because it was all about a deficit. As long as you knew how to calculate TDE, you could eventually get them in a deficit, they'll
Mhm.
lose.
Mhm.
But the funny part about that, which I tell people, is I've had clients, thyroid conditions, menopause. Guess what? Deficits don't work.
Yeah,
They come
I
to
know.
carnivore.
Yeah.
Miraculously, what
Mhm.
happens? Well,
Mhm.
carnivore works. And guess what? 90% of my clients are in a surplus when it comes to calories, if you look at the energy. But because they're in a surplus when it comes to the calories, but not energy, right? And
Mhm.
that's what people don't understand, is the way the body gains weight is if you're in an energy surplus and you don't burn it, it will produce the weight. Well,
Exactly.
it happens
Yeah.
super easy in carbs because your
Mhm.
body only stores 2,000 calories of carbs, right?
100%. I see this all the time with PCOS women, all the time. They're
Yeah.
suffering with insulin resistance. They drop their calories as low as like 600 calories, and they still cannot shift the weight. This no word of a lie. And these women are like say 180, maybe 200 pounds. They're big, big people, and they're bringing their food down to extremely low amounts, unbelievable and low amounts. And
Yeah.
they actually come and see me because their trainer is saying to them, okay, I don't know what to do with you. I have no idea. Your calories are extremely low. I think your best option is to go and see your doctor. And I'm like, you are crazy. Do not go near the doctor. This can be looked after very, very easily without you going to see the doctor. Trust me. Trust
Well,
me.
listen, I don't know. I don't know how it is in Europe, but in North America, an MD, medical doctor, or a GP, general practitioner, no nutrition education at all,
No.
not even 1 hour.
Same here. Same here.
And
Yeah.
unless they go outside of their purview and they upgrade their schooling, not one. No exercise physiology education, not 1 hour. No supplement education. That's why I always laugh when people, well, my doctor. And I said, listen, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about doctors, but the reality is this: they have no nutrition background, they have no exercise background, they have no supplement
Nothing.
background, but they love telling people what to eat, basically,
Crazy. It's
what to
crazy.
do,
We
and what
had,
supplements
yeah,
to take.
it's crazy. We had Dr. Sarah Myhill on our podcast last week,
I
and
saw that and I
she's a,
commented,
yeah,
I love
unbelievable.
Dr.
Yeah,
Sarah.
she's absolutely incredible.
Actually,
We're getting her on again, and when I get her on, what I'll do is I'll actually get you on as a guest on that
oh,
interview.
I love her. You know, I listened to a podcast she was on and she said something that resonated to me that I repeat all the time. She said, once you find out the truth, you have to deal with the consequences. And the
Yeah,
person asked her, what do you mean by that? She goes, it's hard to lie,
yeah.
right? Once you find out the truth, it's hard to lie to people. So when you know the truth about nutrition, when you know the truth about medicines, when you know the truth about supplements, it's hard to look at people with a straight face and tell them to do these things they're telling us to do. And she goes, that's one of the reasons I had to leave,
Yeah.
because I couldn't lie to people anymore
Yeah.
about the
Because
medical
yeah,
industry.
she told us off camera that she was on a very, very good salary. I think she was on a six-figure salary, and she threw all that away. And I said to her, I said, listen, fair play to you. There's not a lot of people that would have done that. Not a lot of
And
people. Because I've had doctors on my podcast. I've had a few of them. Um, and they said the same thing. They were taught absolutely nothing about nutrition, but they can't go into detail about it. So they said, we'll speak off camera, but we can't do this on camera. So I said, oh, that was fine. I've actually had people that work in the health sector as well. I'm actually working one at the moment, and we can't have this. I've always asked her, like, would you like to come on the podcast and speak about it? Can't do it, Mark. I'm not allowed. And it's frightening that if these people found out that these people are doing a podcast with me, they could be sacked on the spot. And you can understand why, because they have to earn a living. But my God,
yeah,
I've heard some scary, horrendous stories. Like the woman that I'm working at the moment, she works in the healthcare system. She told me this story. I think it happened around 2 months ago. She was actually yeah, no, it was actually he. It was a he. He had type 2 diabetes and he was in a really, really bad way. He's severely overweight. I think he was like 350 pounds or something like that, 350 pounds. And he could hardly walk. His legs were absolutely inflamed, really, really inflamed. A lot of water retention. The guy couldn't even walk. And the guy, they brought him in, they removed his leg. They removed his right leg. Guess what they fed him after, Ray? Or Joe? Guess what they fed him after?
oh,
Car-
probably mashed potatoes or
carbohydrates.
yeah.
Criminal. Absolute criminal. And
Oh well, listen,
I begged her to say this in the podcast, but she wouldn't do it.
you know, so it's, like, yeah. We could go on forever about so many of this stuff, but the bottom line is, like type 2 diabetes, we can abolish type 2 diabetes by just changing their nutrition, right? But we can't, would that ever be logical? No, because it's literally $1 billion industry,
That's the
right?
problem.
Like,
That's the problem.
like, like, it's nuts. Like, if you look at the American Diabetes Association or the Canadian Diabetes Association for food recommendations, if you have type 2 diabetes, it is literally an insulin dependence diet. And, and they kind of promote it that way. Well, you can eat all the food you love. You can eat, cereal, pasta, pizza. You just got to basically take your shot every day. Right. But it's just, it's unbelievable,
And this is what we're seeing with type ones as well. Like, I don't
yeah.
understand why we need to give more insulin to type ones to fix the problem. Because this is what really, really annoys me. Because I had a client in the past that when you gave him actually more insulin, he became hypoglycemic. He had all these panic attacks. And I was like, okay, well, hang on a second. I don't think you need all this insulin. What about we did this in phases? We didn't just cut it out straight away. But we did it over a 4 month period. So he was injecting himself. I can't remember how many times a way. I think it was around 14 or 16 times a day. But over that 4 month period, we brought his insulin down. We brought it down to 12, 11, 10, and then eventually, when he became full carnivore, he's only taking it twice a day. He takes the first thing in the morning, and he takes the first thing in the afternoon. That's it. That's all he takes. And he's on no carbohydrates whatsoever. But when you hear the advice of the experts, the medical care, you need to have insulin. You need to have glucose. Yes, you do, but you don't need to get it from carbohydrates. There's the problem. You don't need to get it from carbohydrates. And I got a message. You've probably seen it on my feed last week. A concerned mother reached out to me because her son is only 16 years of age, and he's a type 2 diabetic, and it's getting really, really bad. And I said to her, I said, listen, this is just advice. Get him off carbohydrates. Get him off carbohydrates. Yeah. And she was like, oh no, Mark, he needs glucose. He needs his glucose. And I'm saying, no, Michelle, he probably needs glucose. He probably needs insulin, but he doesn't need to get it from carbohydrates. Oh, but the doctors are saving his life. I'm saying, I'm like, the doctors are not saving his life. Their doctors are making it worse. And then she started getting angry with me, and I was like, okay, I'm not going down this route. Like, You're going to make
Right.
me angry. You're going to make me emotional. And she's a good friend of mine. And
Yeah.
I don't want, if people are not going to listen to you, you're better off just letting them go. Because I'm seeing that with my own parents at the moment. It absolutely kills me, and my daughter as well. It absolutely kills me what they're eating. But because they're adults, there's nothing I can do. If I take the food away from them, they're gonna get it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my dad's is type 2 diabetic, and he's in a really, really bad way at the moment. And I've given him all the information that he needs. All the info. I've even told him I'll buy him the food. But see, well, that's what happens when that addiction gets a hold of you, you're in
Yeah.
trouble. And then once the medical care get hold of you, it's even worse.
Yeah. Well, the bigger problem too is people think of it short term. They need to think of it long term too. Is that once you start taking meds, the longer you take it, it becomes systematic, right? And systematic means your body systems are going to get used to it and dependent on it. And then it's even harder to get off, right? But there's no med that heals you. There's not one med developed that heals you, right? And that's where I kind of refer to people. I go, great, when are you going to get better? And they're like, what? I'm like, okay, your doctor wants you on this med. When did he tell you you're going to be better? You're going to be healed. And they look at me sideways, and I go, because he would never tell you that. He probably told you you're going to be on it for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And they're like, yes. And I go, well, that's peculiar to me for the simple fact you lived 30, 40, 50 years, your life, not with these issues. You got to take responsibility for yourself. You didn't take care of yourself. You got yourself to this point, but guess what? You can get yourself out of it, right? A med doesn't look at the cause, the why it's happening. That's what you need to do. And that's happening, and it's based on your nutrition. There's no sugarcoating it. It's based on what you're eating. So we just got to change what you're eating, and basically we can heal you, right? I don't like when people say cure, carnivore cures. I like the healing aspect, right? Because that's literally what is happening. The body's basically, sick, and eating proper food, getting proper nutrition, reducing the stress. That's why people heal. Like, it's nuts. Like, you know, it, it's been amazing, actually, in the last decade, seeing the transition from everyone coming to see me wanting to lose weight to 80% of people seeing me, if the weight comes off, great. I just want to feel better. I just want to get off my mat. I just want to reduce this illness. I just want, optimal wellness. Like, I'm tired. I have no energy. How to, like it, and it's crazy seeing, like, I have clients. I have an 18-year-old client in full menopause, and I'm like, how does that friggin'
How
happen?
does that even happen
And I
exactly?
know,
It's really worrying, isn't it?
yeah, and I know how it happens. It basically happens because this girl, for literally since she was 18 years old, because her mother had an eating disorder, has been doing low-fat diets since she was 18 years old, 8 years old.
Yeah.
So for 10 years, she was literally hardly eating, and she's been low fat, low fat, low fat. And, basically we know that women hormonally need cholesterol, a large amount of it, to control certain hormonal responses. I talk about all the time how many hundreds of female clients I had reversing menopause, reversing, thyroid, PCOS, autoimmune, and it's literally for the amount of fat they're eating, because the amount of fat they haven't been eating, right? Like, it's just crazy. And
isn't it amazing that all of these conditions, you'll always hear they're non-reversible. You can't even manage the symptom. You can't even manage it, because I've had parents reach out to me that their teenage daughters are in severe period pain from endometriosis or fibromyalgia. They're in severe pain. They'll actually show me the videos of their daughters on the ground in severe pain. And it absolutely kills me having this conversation with these parents, because these parents are absolutely convinced that I'm wrong and the healthcare system is right. But you know what's the worst thing? They have to wait 3 to 5 years to be seen. So your daughter's in so much pain on the floor, you're going to wait 3 years to see your doctor, only to be put on medication. And I try and step back and not get angry about when I'm having these conversations with these parents, because I want to get really angry. And I'm not angry at them. I'm just angry at the health system. And you can clearly see that when I'm doing my videos. If you met me
Yeah.
if you met me in person, I'm not an angry person. The reason why I come across as aggressive is because there's so many people out there that think we're the stupid ones, we're the crazy ones.
Oh, sure.
And
Well, listen,
I was like,
you're
I was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this. You're not going to treat me like crap. I'm gonna tell the people exactly what's going on here. If you don't like it, I don't give a shit. I couldn't care less. And
well.
I've had a lot of people being
Well,
angry over
listen,
it.
you know what? You know the truth now. Now you're emotionally invested. So what happens is you're getting frustrated. We've
Yeah,
all gone through it. We go through it, right? And I've gotten better because I've been dealing with it a bit longer. Like I love doing lives and having the haters on there, and I just have fun with them. And
yeah,
and the reality is, my job now, I feel, is just to be positive, educate everyone, and make them aware,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And as humans, we have this entitlement and we just think we should be able to eat everything we want and it's all okay and it's all good, right? But the reality is it's not,
mm,
right? And that's what people got to kind of, just come to grips with that, I'm in the situation, I'm here, and it's based on what I'm eating, so yeah. I had a person the other day, well, if I go carnivore for 3 months and I do better, can I go back to eating carbs and it'll be good? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it's like people who even do macros. Well, you reduced your pizza, your pasta, you went to healthier grains and you're eating whole foods and you lost a little bit of weight. What
mm,
happens when you go back to eating, your pizza, pasta, cereal,
exactly.
and, you gain the weight back? I
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
no. I
yeah,
go, you know, like I had another guy the other day, well, I don't know if I can do this with the rest of my life. And I'm like, well, I go, first of all, you're making it bigger than it needs to be right now. I go, all you really need to do is commit to 90 days. Everyone has done that, right? Commit to 90 days, do it right, and see where it goes. You can
exactly.
be
Make a
at
decision
90
after
days
that.
and say, hey, it's
Yeah.
not for me.
Hmm.
You can be at 90 days and you can be like a lot of people. This is the best thing I've ever done and I'm never going to go back, right?
Hmm.
Like and that's, and it's funny how people are just, they want it, but they actually don't want to put in the work.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's like sometimes I'm known as the tough love coach because I don't bullshit, I don't
Mm.
sugarcoat, I give
Mm.
people how it is, and I tell people, listen, it's not easy. Life's not easy. I go, you can make it easy, and this lifestyle is super easy.
Mm.
I go, but you have to get there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If what you were doing was easy and great, you wouldn't be wanting to change,
But you know what I
right?
did? But
And
you know
what
what
you're
I?
doing is not
But you know,
working.
you know what I like doing? I like getting them like deeply fat adapted and get them into ketosis. Let's say about 4 months into it,
Yeah,
and then what I'll do is I like to experiment. I like to say, okay, for one day, add in the food that you used to enjoy, potato, rice, ice cream, whatever. But I want you to give me feedback the next day. And the reason why I'm doing that is because they're learning. They're learning, okay,
oh yeah,
if I am going to add carbohydrates in, it's going to be my choice. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do it because they feel horrendous. They
yeah,
feel
oh
horrendous.
yeah.
And I think that's very important. I think that a lot of people just like to go strict carnivore. And I get it. I understand that you don't want to go back to carbohydrates again. But I feel in order for you to learn through the whole process, you need to experiment. I did. I'm pretty sure you did.
Well,
I had to
yeah,
experiment for
well, I
myself.
do. I actually do that with my clients. I call it the litmus test. I say, we're
Yeah.
going to do the litmus test now. And they're like, what's that? I'm going to go, you're going to pick whatever your favorite meal was and you're going to indulge, you're going to have it. And we're going
Hmm.
to see how your body
Yeah.
responds and how you feel.
Hmm.
Okay? And and I know they're going to have a lousy night's sleep. They're going to have
Exactly.
crappy energy. Their stomach's going to be upset. They like aches and pains. And it is a great litmus test because people finally realize when they actually experience it, wow, this is how I felt before and I didn't realize. And we talked about it, how we feel this good and we didn't really know. It comes out. I had that experience. So in my first year, I had 3 separate occasions over around 7 months where I was family occasions, and God rest her soul, my grandmother, it was easier for me to eat a bowl of pasta than to try to explain to her, because my Italian's horrible, her English is horrible, to have that conversation, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to have a bowl of pasta. So I had that bowl of pasta. It was the last time I had carbs, and it was like 7 months in, because literally, yeah, I was in a carb coma an hour later. And meanwhile, a month before, I was making fun of all my aunt and uncles all my uncles that were falling asleep on the couch after they ate pasta. My sleep was lousy. My energy was horrible. My arthritis from that one bowl of pasta came back like a juggernaut. Like for 3 days, like I actually skipped my workout for 2 of the 3 days just because my joints were so bad, right? And I'm like, why the heck do I want to go through this?
Yeah.
I go, I function better and I feel better. I go, why do I want to even do that? And, and that's one of the reasons why, because actually after that last experience, I kind of incorporated it with clients that, because I always like, there's certain things I like to see how the body responds hormonally, right? And that was one of the things, like just consume something. Because I do have, my preference obviously is carnivore. I think carnivore is the best. Nothing even touches it, right?
Yeah.
My preference, if you don't want to do a carnivore, ketogenic's better than macros, right? So keeping the carbs under 30 to 50. But there's a night and day difference between all three, right? And I have clients that will transition to animal base and they do great. Keto, they do great. But the majority of clients, because a lot of people are unaware they're addicted to carbs, they're addicted to sugar. It's that's not a thing, right? Because they tell you sugar's not addictive. We know it is. So a lot of people, they can't. Like I had one client, carnivore 3 years. When we meet now once every 2 months, just catch up, talk, go over stuff. And they decided, they saw a video by Dr. Paul Salatino there. Oh, we're gonna try animal based. We're gonna see how it goes. I'm like, great. What are you gonna do? And they're like, oh, we're gonna do half a cup of pineapple each, right? So they incorporated the half a cup of pineapple, and both of them, husband and wife, did carnivore together, one of my carnivore couples, and very well, did awesome. They couldn't finish the half a cup of pineapple. It was too sweet. But Jessica basically said, Coach, for 3 days, all I thought about was chocolate. She goes, I haven't had food noise in 3 years. I had half a cup of stupid pineapple, and all I wanted to do was eat chocolate. She goes, it was excruciating, right? Just to have that amount of food noise where I had none. She goes, forget it, right? And then her husband, Rick, no food noise, but he's like, oh man. He goes, my stomach was upset. It was cramping. Goes, my sleep was horrible. And he had a few autoimmune disorders, and he had some skin issues. And he goes, Coach, it looked like I had scales on my forearms for 2 days. And he's like, forget it. and I'm like, well, listen, once again, I use the reference. It's a good litmus test. You can see, because if your body responds well, if you respond well, and how you do with it. And the reality is, systematically, it's still stuck in your body. It recognizes sugar, and you don't do well with it. So that's when you make the choice, do I want to consume it and deal with it? Or basically, do I want to just keep living my lifestyle? And that's what happens with most of us in this lifestyle. We basically keep living our lifestyle. That's one of the things people always ask me, some of the biggest differences between macros and carnivore. And I said, well, listen, I can tell you 100% of my macro-based clients all fall off, right? They all end up binging. They all fall off. They restart. Right now, because I keep track of my numbers, I have like a 94% of people continue and haven't fallen off, right? Like it's nuts. And it's because, there is a difference. It is actually a lifestyle. I love people that say, oh, it's not a lifestyle, it's a fad. And I'm like, well, that's both are incorrect statements, but it's not. It's a lifestyle. People, ketosis is not a lifestyle. I go, actually, it is. It was actually the first lifestyle. If you want to classify nutrition being a lifestyle, absolutely it is, right? And people thrive in it. People just don't do well. We thrive. That's kind of the thing people don't get as well. Like, we're just not coasting. Like, we're thriving. To be, in our 50s, to have energy like we have, to sleep what we have, to have, the health that we have, that's thriving. right? That's not
Absolutely,
existing,
100%. I mean,
right?
we
You
mentioned this
know,
before. We mentioned this before we jumped on the call. Like we're in the similar age group, and we're actually looking forward to getting older now. We're not worried about ending up in a care home in the next 10 or 20 years. We're actually looking forward to seeing what we can do in our 70s and our 80s. I'm really looking forward to it because
yeah.
I did a bodybuilding competition 5 years ago, and I'm seriously considering in the next say 10, 15 years I'm going to do another one. Honestly,
Yeah.
I just
Well,
feel
you
I'll
know,
be
so
bigger. I'll be more fat adapted. And I always said if I ever did a bodybuilding competition, I wouldn't do it on a standard diet because I was always hungry. Always hungry.
yeah,
I was like, there's never in a million years would I do it. But when I came into this carnivore space 5 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, this is actually really looking after my food problem, my hunger problem. I'm not thinking about food
yeah.
anymore. I can go 2 or 3 days fasting easily, easily. I was like, you know what? I might actually step on stage for the first time in my life, and I might actually do it. And
That's awesome. Do it.
not only did I step on stage, I did the whole prep carnivore. I stepped on that stage. I think it was around 3 or 4% body fat. I had veins in my lower abs. I was shredded to bits. I knew I was never going to go into that show being the biggest, but I wanted to go into that show being the leanest. And I can tell you right now, I was severely lean and I was able to function very, very easily. I wasn't walking around like a zombie. And I can tell you right now, I felt incredible stepping on the stage. I didn't have to cramp up. I didn't have to refeed on carbohydrates. None of that crap. After the show, I didn't have to go in the back room where they were all feeding on pizzas and sweets and all that crap.
Yeah. Donuts,
I was great. I
cookies.
felt great. I was, and I can't remember what I was. I was around 3 or 4% back then, and we went to this all-inclusive, all-meat buffet. I'm not even joking with you, Joe. I must have put away at least maybe 4 or 5 pounds of meat that night, at least, easily.
Nice.
And the next day, I looked even better. No, I didn't have any
Oh yeah.
inflammation problems. But you know what the funny thing was? I got a phone call from one of the guys that were on the stage. He was in a really, really bad way, and they all went out and they all had like pizzas and they ate pretty much
Yeah.
wherever they wanted. This guy gained 20 pounds in water weight the next day when he stepped on the scales. 20 pounds.
Yeah.
For
That's
what?
nuts.
All this just to win a trophy or to compete, win the
Yeah.
trophy. It's crazy. It's crazy how we define health. Is that when you look at someone, you look at the abs, you look at the body, they must be the healthiest people in the world. A bodybuilder's diet is probably the worst diet in the world
Oh,
compared to
it
the
is.
standard diet.
You know, and anyone who competes, if they're honest, they'll tell you, I'm manipulating my body with things that I shouldn't. I'm miserable, I'm tired, I'm moody, and it is one of the most unhealthiest things.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that bounce back is when so many people actually damage their health even more. Like I've known guys basically eat so much food after because they were starving, like it twisted their stomach, twisted their intestines. People ended up in the hospital, right? Like it's just crazy. Well, here's the ironic thing. People's perception of health is you have to be lean, right? If you're overweight, you can never be healthy. So I have a couple clients. My one client, Deanna, started at 540 pounds. She's 340 now. She was on 22 medications. She is down to 4, and her blood work is perfect, and she still has
Wow.
160 pounds to lose, right?
Wow.
Her doctor is in awe. He's like, I've never seen this in my life. And her doctor's funny guy out of Texas, and he's like I'm not being rude, but it's just the perception is if you're fat and overweight, you're not healthy. You're going to have some sort of condition. And my client's the best. She goes, it's not about the weight. It's actually about the food you're eating. Mm-hmm. She goes, because you can be holding excess body fat and still be healthy. Because that's what I taught her. And I loved it when she told him that because he has no explanation. He goes, I've never seen a person basically get off meds, he told her. And he says, I've never seen a person who would be considered based on our perception of being unhealthy have perfect blood work. And he goes, your blood work's perfect. This is crazy, right? And it is. It's about how the food you're eating is stressing your body and what you're doing. It's not necessarily the weight is kind of a side effect. And obviously, when we know people that are 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds, they have other issues. They're basically, they're eating their feelings. Let's be honest, right? You don't eat that volume of food with not having an issue you're trying to deal with, and food is comforting you because that's what food does, right? And that's the unfortunate part. I talk to people, especially, I have a lot of clients that struggle with their weight. They're very heavy. And you end up being a counselor, right? Because, there's a bigger issue because when a person gains weight, it's not hard to gain 20, 40, 60, 80 pounds. But when you start talking 200, 300, 400 pounds, that's actually not that easy to do. That's consistent eating. And it's usually you're eating because, you're trying to basically, comfort yourself. Because unfortunately, that's what food companies have done. They made food so palatable with the sugars and the vegetable oils and those combinations that it releases heightened hormone responses, especially in dopamine and serotonin, and it comforts people, makes them feel good, makes them feel euphoric. Food was never designed to do that, right?
Exactly.
And that's what people really don't understand or know. Food is supposed to taste good, but people are losing, tasting good with food making me feel good, making me feel happy, euphoric. Food is never designed to do that. That's a food company thing, and that's where the addiction comes in, right? And I have so many people are like, well, why wouldn't they say sugar is addictive? And I go, well, listen, if they ever admitted that sugar was addictive, and literally lawsuits through the wazoo, because why now, you can go to these companies that are putting 3, 4, 5 sugars in basically, a processed product. The reason they do that, it increases the palatability, increases the basically the addictiveness of it. So you want to consume more, right? So, all your health issues, a lot of them come from the overconsumption of food and the consumption of sugar, and you have no control, right? When you're an addict, you have no control, right? The only way you control when you're an addict is to literally, take yourself outside of that scenario and not have the temptation, right? Like if you're addicted to alcohol, do you have, alcohol in your house? No, because you'll end up drinking it. If you're addicted to alcohol, are you going to run out to the bar with your friends? No, because you're going to end up drinking, right? So, if you're addicted to sugar, why do you have sugar in your house? Because you're going to end up eating it, right?
Exactly.
If you're addicted to sugar, why are you going to the ice cream shop? Because you're going to eat it, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, so
No,
it's crazy though, and it's not.
no, 100%. Well, Joe, I could talk to you for another hour, but I know you're a very, very busy man, so I want to be respectful of your time. But before I let you go, if someone's listening to this and they're in a
Yeah.
similar situation as one of your clients, they're in a really, really bad way, and they're looking for help, what would you recommend these people do?
Sorry, you broke up there. I literally didn't hear the last 2 minutes of what you said.
I was just going to say, if someone's listening to this right now and they're in a similar situation, they're losing hope. They don't know what to do. They're on a list of medication. They're probably severely overweight. Their health is turning to rubbish. What would you recommend these people do?
Well, there's a lot of little things you can do, obviously, right? And then there's some big things. The reality is, when we talk about medications, there's no med that's going to heal you, right? It literally is managing your system. And the more you're on those meds, here's the thing with meds that people don't know that they need to be aware of. Every med that you take has what we call nutritional deficiencies. It is going to deplete certain nutrients that your body's going to absorb, right? So that's the first negative thing. The second negative thing is every med you take is hard on basically certain organs, right? So the longer you're on them, if you're on a med like metformin, basically, right? That's really hard on your kidneys. It's only a matter of time before your kidneys are going to start to basically be affected. And guess what? You're going to have to go on a med for your kidneys, right? And then every med has negative side effects, right? And you're supposed to have 2 sale face. At least I know in North America, your doctor's supposed to basically go over those. And then when you go to the pharmacy, they're supposed to go over those. And they never do. when people come to me and they're telling me they're on 2 meds, 4 meds, 8 meds, 12 meds, you know, and I say, well, do you know the side effects? They're like, no. I go, do you know the nutritional deficiency? They're like, no. I go, do you know what organs they're hard on? No. And like, they never go over them. They just tell them this is why you need to take them.
Mm.
What they need to realize too is when a doctor recommends a med, it is a recommendation. You don't have to, no matter what kind of fear mongering they do and scare tactics they do, because it's usually you got to do it or you're going to get sicker or you're going to die, right? Like that's usually the gist, right? And people get scared and that's why they go on them, but they never get better, right? So, I always tell people, listen, you know, the only one that's really going to take care of yourself is you, right? And the way you can do that is obviously through nutrition and through a bit of activity. And that's where you should actually start. If you've gone years with this and now you want to go on a med, what's another 3 to 6 months? I would basically say to my doctor, okay, doc, I hear you, but guess what? Give me 3 to 6 months. Let me do a few things. Let's check it again. If there's no improvement, then we can talk about it.
Mm.
And then, that's a nice way of basically, kind of, facilitating them. And then, yeah, you need to take care of yourself. No one's going to take care of you but you. So you need to basically do a little more research. You need to basically be aware and you need to basically change your life. You're where you're at because of things you've done. This is the tough love I always tell people. You have to take responsibility and understand that, you weren't here 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Why? Because you either weren't doing these things or you've been doing them long enough. Now it's affecting your body. And you can basically just start eating a proper human diet. And I know people like making fun of us, but it is. We literally evolved from primates to humans by the consumption of fat and protein. And for millions of years, all we ate was fats and proteins before carbohydrates, and we thrived. And you can get back to that position, right? And yeah, and the big thing too, if you're unaware to do that, reach out to people like me, like yourself, get some assistance. That's one thing that I really wish people would do more of is ask for help when they need it, right? And it's a fitness thing, it's a nutrition thing, and it's a value thing. People don't value their health the way they value other things, right? Where, I know you deal with it, I would deal with it. How many times we see people when they're always at their rock bottom, right? Always need the help, right? Where if they would have come 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, asked for some help, invested in themselves, and got some direction, they could do great things, right? And that's, people need to do that. And sometimes it's them putting themselves first. I always tell people there's nothing wrong when you're putting yourself first when it's not a selfish thing, right? Yeah, like I had a person tell me once, well, I take care of my mother. I got to concentrate on her. And I go, that's awesome, except you're sick. You're not well. I go, how are you supposed to take care of someone when you can't take care of yourself? I go, you can take care of your mother better when you take care of yourself first. And that's not you being selfish. That's you putting yourself first to basically support others, right? I take care of my family. I do it better being healthier, right? And the same thing with other people. So, putting themselves first, taking care of themselves, and basically asking for some help if they need it. Some people are intuitively smart. I have people that message me all the time saying they follow my videos, follow my stuff, and I changed their life. They lost 80 pounds, 100 pounds. They're off medications just by following the things I do. One of the reasons I have my channels, I have my pages, is to inspire, educate, and motivate people to do this lifestyle. I love it so much. One of the reasons I do my videos is so people are aware. Our lifestyles become so popular now. We've gone from thousands to tens of thousands, 100,000, now millions of people doing it. And now when things become popular, there's usually a lot of, confusion, right? Because there's a lot of mixing, because everyone's a carnivore activist now, right? Everyone's basically, a carnivore expert, which I love and I don't love. But now we got, the biggest thing I've seen, and we've talked about this prior, is the mixing of the genres now, right? People thinking, well, if you're on a meat-based diet, that's carnivore, Like if I see another meal where they show this is a great carnivore meal and there's avocados there, well, avocados aren't carnivore. This is a great carnivore recipe and there's pickles. Pickles aren't carnivore. This is a great carnivore recipe. There's sour cream. Sour cream's not carnivore, right? Like, and that's kind of inherently, people are looking for these great results, but they're not getting them because sometimes they're not actually doing carnivore. So just make sure you're doing carnivore, because I can honestly tell people you will get the best results health-wise when you're carnivoring properly. And that means you're eating the majority, 99% meats and fats coming from an animal, right? There's not much deviation, right? And you can thrive. And, we talked about it before, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, that's not a long time to change your life. And literally that's what's happening to people. Some people are getting very lucky in months, they're seeing fantastic results. But, when a person tells me 6 months, 9 months, a year is too long, I'm like, you're kidding me, right? You lived 50 years of your life, and a year is too long from you going basically almost, bedridden to not. That's not a thing, right? That's a perception thing. And, that's another thing is I wish more people on social media would post sometimes their struggles and sometimes their losses when it comes to the lifestyle, so people are aware and know that I struggle too, and people struggle too. And yeah, maybe, you're not going to lose 20 pounds in your first month. Maybe you lose 2, but guess what? You're going to get healthier. Your body's going to transition. When you heal, it's going to change, right? And, I love when you said fat adapted. Your key in this lifestyle is to get fat adapted. And I've literally met people 1 month, 6 months, a year, 2 years doing the lifestyle and they're not fat adapted, right? Because there's no guarantee if you're doing it, you're going to get there, because it does take first aspects. When you're fat adapted, it is a night and day difference. And that's when you'll notice, man, the healing start happening, the vitality start happening. Basically, if you have excess weight, guess what? Your body doesn't like that. That's not normal. That's not something it wants. It is literally going to start melting off, right? But, you have to get there and you have to start. So yeah, I would tell people basically, watch really great content by really great people, get support if you need it, and just start. That's my biggest thing, is just start. Like, if you want, it's super easy to start. Dr. Ken Berry, one of our best advocates in this industry, basically he's the one who turned the point: beef, butter, bacon, eggs. Literally reduce all your carbohydrates, start eating a lot of beef, some butter, some eggs, make sure you're getting your water, your salt. Good things are going to happen, right? And just start. I've been doing videos lately showing clients behind me that started in October, November, December, because I'm getting messages now, I want to start January 1st. And I'm like, why? Why would you want to wait 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? Literally you're wasting months. And why? Because I want to eat Christmas dinner. You go, you're already... I had one person do that the other day, and I'm like, and you're telling me you're not addicted to food? She goes, no. I go, you're already thinking about something almost 2 months away.
Exactly.
And you're telling me, I'm going to work with you, coach. We're going to get started, but I'm going to do it after December. I'm like, listen, you could be, and I said to her, I go, you could lose 20 pounds by December. You could be fat adapted by December. You could be sleeping through the night, which you're not right now, by December. Your energy can be better, which you're complaining about. Your stomach, your diet. I go, you don't realize what can happen before December, but you want to wait because you want to eat one meal, right? Like, that's why I tell people, just start. People always ask me, when's the best time to start? I said yesterday, a week ago, a month ago.
Yeah, just jump on it. Just get started. That's the best thing.
Whether it's with someone or not, it was literally a month ago. Just start. Yeah. Right? I love perfect time. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as perfect time. And there's no such thing as perfection. That's what people don't like. I don't expect perfection from anyone. What I'm looking for is consistency.
Exactly.
If you're consistent, if you create habits, if you create routines, if you create a lifestyle, good things happen. A person asked me the other day, and I did a video on what motivates you. And I said, nothing. I go, motivation is fleeting. I go, I have a routine, I'm consistent, and I have habits.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing every day. If
that's
I'm looking for motivation
yeah,
and inspiration, I probably would be watching a movie on the couch eating popcorn,
100%. I
right?
say that every single day on my stories. Just show up. It's routine, routine. It's like reps in the gym. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Nobody's going to be perfect, but what's going to happen is you're going to get
I
there very, very quickly with just pure consistent work. That's
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna end with this. What people need to kind of look at is not your excitement of life, it's your quality of life,
Hmm.
right? And that's where routine kind of people dull at, is because it's not exciting,
Mm.
right? And I go, listen, when you have a better quality life, it is so much more exciting than always looking for something to get you motivated, get you excited, get you inspired, right? Like when you're feeling great, guess what? You start doing things. Like how many times have you heard from your clients, I cannot sit around anymore?
Mm.
Right? Like within 2, 3 weeks, they all get what we call that excess energy where, they get, the feet are going, the hands are going, they start, they have projects they haven't touched in 2 years. All of a sudden the garage is clean. They cleaned up around the house,
Yeah, yeah.
they're putting boxes away. And it's because, they are transitioning. They're basically getting into this routine. Their body's improving, their energy's increasing. It is hard to basically sit around and be a slug and do nothing when you're basically thriving as an individual,
Hmm.
right? You don't need stimulants to get you going, because what happens within an hour, you're back in the same place, right? Okay, brother, this was awesome.
Oh,
I appreciate you having me on.
absolutely.
I loved it.
Honestly, the time has flew through. It's been a pleasure, Joe. Honestly, I could talk to you for another hour, but as I say, you're a busy man. And where can people go to find
Yeah,
you?
I know, buddy. Listen, it happens when like-minded people, like, you can't get me started talking about carnivore. I'll literally talk about it for 2 hours,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Like when, yeah. So I totally get it, and I love it, and I think that's one of the reasons we do well, and one of the reasons people, we have this thing. It's called transference of feeling. When you actually have passion for something, you believe in something,
mm,
people see that, right? And you know you're not really going to believe in something and have passion in something if it truly isn't kind of part of you or working. And that's one thing we notice in this community with carnivores is, we're all kind of that similar individual where we just want to shout it from the rooftops and tell everyone, right? And you go through stages. Like when I first started, I didn't tell anyone, right? Around a month and a half in, feeling great, I was starting to talk it. I would get defensive. By around 12 weeks, I was literally talking everyone's ear off. I was an advocate, you know, and you couldn't tell me anything that was negative about it because I didn't believe it. I
mhm.
go, nope, nope, nope. Like, you know, uh, one more thing before I go. So I have friends that are doctors, right? And when I started this, I asked them, what do you think? Long term. And my one friend who's a doctor, Dr. Lucky Sharma, Lucky said, listen, you'll get some good results, but if you end up doing this within 10 years, you'll die of cardiovascular heart disease, have a heart attack. So I see him pretty frequently. And I saw him like 2 weeks ago across a room. And I'm like, Doc, 2 more years. He goes, 2 more years. I go, 2 more years until I'm dead. And he starts laughing because he remembers he told me I'd be dead in 10 years of a heart attack. Meanwhile, I'm healthier than him. I look better than him. He does my blood work. He knows how healthy I am, and he just laughs, right? And but I always love that. Every time I see him, like I'll see him 2 years, like so I saw him 3 years, and he just laughs. He goes, yeah, 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 and then I'll always pat his belly because he has a big belly and his buttons are popping out of his shirt while he has his extra large coffee and his cigarettes are in his pocket. Doctor,
Yeah.
and I love him to death, but and ironically enough, the way I meted him, he was one of my personal training clients because when he had to get ready to go on vacation, he came and saw me. And this was like 12 years ago, and he dropped 20 pounds before he went on vacation. But like most people who have short-term things, gained it all back, but it
Mm.
is what it is.
Where
Okay,
can people
brother.
where can people go to find you, Joe?
Uh, the most popular places to find me, I'm really big on TikTok. Coach Carnivore Joe is my acronym. Instagram as well, Coach Carnivore Joe. You can find me there as well. Um, I'm not that creative, Coach Carnivore Joe. And yeah, if people just want to watch my content, if people want to reach out, talk to me, have any questions, believe it or not, I get around 100 emails a day. I actually answer them all. It takes me a couple days, but I answer them all. As long as they're okay questions. Like I get people that'll literally give me 10 paragraphs, all their stuff, and they want me to basically give them a plan. And I'm like, don't do that. You can, I do that, but I get paid for that. But yeah, like I get people ask me about cholesterol. They'll ask me about bowel movements. They'll ask me about fiber, no issues. Spend 2 minutes. I always answer everyone. So people have any questions, they're just, I even like when people message me and just say, I've been carnivore, this is what happened. I love it. And I always respond back because I love hearing that.
Good
The
man.
more of us in the world, the better. And that's kind of where we want to get. One of my goals was to convert 1 million people to the carnivore lifestyle
Well,
over a period of time. So,
you're halfway there. I'd say you're about 3/4 of the way there. I'd say.
well, listen, one of my goals was, I wanted to get to 1,000 clients in 10 years, right? And I hit that, basically this January will be 8 years for me. So, and I hit 1,000 clients two months ago, which is nuts. And the majority, since I went full time 2 years ago, yeah, because my first, in the last 2 years, almost 400 clients.
Wow.
Concentrating going full time, right? Which is nuts. Where the first, 6 years, it was 600. But what I tell people, it shows a need, and people are looking for it, and people are wanting it because macros just isn't working.
Yeah.
And it's not. People are doing it over and over and over again. They're smart enough to understand now, yeah, it's not working. I need something different, and they're looking, right? And I love it. I love it. I love it. It doesn't matter, how they get started or what motivates them. I love the fact that they're doing it. And when they're doing it right, they don't go back, which is even better.
Amazing. Keep up the good work, Joe. Keep up the good work, and I'll stay in touch with you. And yeah, just keep smashing. You're doing amazing.
Okay, buddy. Appreciate it. Love you, man. Have a great day.
See you soon.